Hi everyone, I'm the Limitless Librarian and welcome to my TBR for March of the Mammoths. So you might be asking, what does March of the Mammoths mean? Well, it's a book reading challenge and the first part might be pretty self-explanatory. It takes place over the month of March, which is next month. And as for what mammoths means, well, a mammoth is a book that is over 800 pages long. And so the purpose of March of the Mammoths is to encourage you to read these long books that might have been sitting there on your TBR for yonks because their sheer size just intimidated you and put you off of reading them. This challenge was created by two booktube channels, Old Blues Chapter and Verse and Big Owl Books. So go check them out, especially if you're interested in doing this challenge yourself. Now, you just have to read one mammoth this month and you don't have to finish it. So it's not like you can only read mammoths for an entire month or you have to finish it. It's just to encourage you to pick up these books that might have been sitting there and being put off over and over again because they are big and scary. That being said, I generally don't have a fear of big books. In fact, I read 4 mammoths last year. There's been Stephen King's The Stand, Ken Follett's Pillars of the Earth, Stephen King's 4 Past Midnight, and A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. And I read quite a few other big, long books last year that weren't quite mammoths. So, yeah, it's not something that really scares me. But I do have quite a few sitting there on my TBR, so I'm going to go through all of the mammoths that are candidates for this challenge. There are 14 of them. The only ones I've excluded are entries in a series that I'm not currently up to yet. That seems pretty obvious. And I also have at least one Stephen King mammoth, but I am currently reading the rest of the unread Stephen King books in publishing order, so I'm not up to that one yet. That being said, I am currently reading the Barkman books by Stephen King, which is a mammoth that is over 800 pages. So anyway, with all that preamble out of the way, let's get into the TBR. So as I said, there are 14 of these mammoths. If you have any particular recommendations from this lot, please let me know. I will announce which one, or maybe 2, I have decided on at the end of the month. So the first one is The Evening and the Morning by Ken Follett, which is a prequel to The Pillars of the Earth. This book is, let's check the page length. I think this one was in the 800s. It's very close. Yeah, 817 pages long. So yes, it is just surpassed the criteria for being a mammoth. I do have, however, another Kingsbridge book on this TBR, and I might read that one instead because it was published before that one, even though that's a prequel. I'm not sure. We have another Ken Follett book. This is Never. So this is unlike the Kingsbridge books, which are historical thrillers. This is a modern one. Yeah, it sounds like American sort of spy thriller. Which I like the Mitch Rapp series by Vince Flynn, so I'm not unfamiliar with the genre. So there's that. As for how long it is, this is another close one. It's only just over 800 pages. Next we have Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. Apologies if I mispronounced that. This is a classic and it's apparently, from what I've heard, one of the most popular or widely read books. All I know about it is, from what I've been told, it's quote-unquote about a stupid knight. And that sounds fun, even though it's probably intimidating because it's a classic and it is over 900 pages long. Who wouldn't want to read about a stupid knight? That sounds funny. So I'm very curious about what kind of shenanigans this stupid knight gets himself into. The next one we have is The Stone Key by Isabel Carmody. This is book 5 in the Ober Newton series, and this is just shy of 1,000 pages. I read books 1 to 4 ages ago, and I, for some reason, didn't get back into the series since. This series is the most inconsistent series I've ever seen when it comes to book lengths. The first 2 books are like 300 pages each, then book 3 is like 500, and book 4 is 750, and now we have this thing that is just shy of 1,000. And there are 2 more books after that. They're both very big. So, yeah, I might have to refresh myself on the series because, as I said, it's been years since I read book 4. But I do mean to get into that. I was considering making March a series cleanup blitz month, but because I've got the remains of my Dimix reading challenge and then wanting to do March of the Mammoths, maybe that'll be a job for April instead. Next is The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. This one looks like one of the easiest mammoths to read. It has short chapters, unlike the other ones on this list so far, and it is in the low 800s. So this is probably a good candidate, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure what it's about. I picked it up secondhand in the secondhand bookshop for like $2 or something, and it looked pretty interesting and sounded pretty interesting. And I also have, I think Birnam Wood is also written by the same author. I haven't read that yet, but I own that. So next we have Quicksilver by Neil Stevenson. This is book 1 in the Baroque cycle, and this is sort of a historical epic, I guess. I remember looking at one of the later books, and it mentioned Newton and Leibniz, who, if you didn't know, were largely involved in the invention of calculus. And also, you can see from the cover, there's all these sort of mathematical diagrams in the background. So this is definitely a series I would love to get to. This is in the low 900s, lengthwise. Next one is Paris by Edward Rutherford. This is another long story about, the city of Paris in France. And I think if it's anything like the London one, it's gonna go over, it goes over a bunch of generations, a very long period. I think it's like one story, or like interconnected stories set in Paris of multiple generations of people. There's a family tree in the front. As for how long it is, we are in very low 800s. This one just scraped in at like 805 or something pages. This one we have is, as I mentioned, London by Edward Rutherford. This is a similar thing, but with London, England. This one I think is the longest one on this list. I think it is just shy of 1,300. Yep, literally 12.99. So one page shy of 1,300 pages. And this starts from like the Romans and goes through to the 20th century. I think this is like 20 chapters, so I could perhaps try and get through a chapter a day, and then I'll have finished it in March. Again, I know you don't have to get through the whole Mammoth in March. There's no pressure, but maybe that'll be doable. We'll see. Next up is the Gormenghast trilogy by Mervyn Peake. This is a pretty beloved series, and it's magical. I think it's like magical stuff in a house. It's this big quirky house. How long is it? It's in the low 900s, 930s, something like that. This is the whole trilogy in one book, but it's still one book, so it's still a mammoth. This is one I wanted to read for a while. Next we have Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. This is book 1 in the Live Ship Traders series, and I think that series is part of a whole larger universe involving this like assassin guy. I think I didn't know that when I picked this up. I read a prequel to the Live Ship Traders in her short story collection Inheritance, and I really liked it, so I wanted to pick up the series. It is around 860, 870 pages long, and this is a fantasy, more of a high fantasy series. I don't normally go for high fantasy, but this one actually sounded interesting and unique, and as I said, I liked the prequel story that I read. So there are these living ships, and I think maybe sort of a piratey, nautical sort of story. Next we have Fall of Giants by Ken Follett. This is book 1 in the Century trilogy, as I understand, set during the 20th century. So historical fiction, and it is so it's around 850 pages long. I have the whole trilogy, so there's that. Next we have The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I saw this in another BookTube video going through a bookshelf tour or something. I don't remember who it was, and she said it was good and she liked it, and I picked it up because it was cheap at the bookshop because it's a classic, and it sounded interesting to me. I think it's like, sort of a legal thriller, not thriller, but a legal story classic, and it is in the low 800s lengthwise. And again, I think it has short chapter lengths, but being a classic, it might be a bit, wordy, or I don't know how easy it would be relative to some of these other ones. Next one is World Without End by Ken Follett. This is Kingsbridge Book 2, the sequel to The Pillars of the Earth, which I read last year and absolutely loved. Each of these story books is set in like a different century, so it's going to be different characters and different story, and just set in the same town of Kingsbridge. And this one is over 1,200 pages. And last but not least, we have Cryptonomicon by Neil Stevenson. This one is, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's like information age, about digital stuff, I guess, digital sci-fi thriller. As for how long it is, just low 900s lengthwise. And it looks like I have short chapters as well, so there's that. So that's all of the eligible mammoths on my TBR. For now, I'm thinking the Luminaries and maybe London as well, but if you have any recommendations out of this lot, please let me know. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. If you have any suggestions about what I should pick, let me know. And as I said, I will announce that at the end of February or start of March. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Help me with the algorithm. I really appreciate it. And as always, do lots of maths, read lots of books, and I'm sure you'll have an epic day.